Welcome back to our channel, where we honor the legacies of those who left us too soon. Cancer has claimed the lives of many beloved American female celebrities, but their influence, talent, and spirit continue to shine. Today, we pay tribute to these remarkable women, stars who inspired millions, but were taken far too soon. Farrah Fawcett was a Hollywood icon, a woman whose beauty and talent captivated the world. But behind the glamour, she faced a battle that would ultimately take her life. Born on February 2, 1947, in Corpus Christi, Texas, Farrah rose to fame in the 1970s as the golden-haired star of Charlie's Angels, her smile and feathered hair becoming the symbol of an era. But in 2006, at the height of a life filled with achievements, she was diagnosed with anal cancer. At first, it seemed like she had won. After undergoing chemotherapy and surgery, she was declared cancer-free on her 60th birthday. But the disease was relentless. Within months, it returned more aggressive than before, spreading to her liver, cutting down her chances of survival to nearly nothing. Desperate for a cure, she refused a colostomy and instead traveled to Germany for alternative treatments, enduring grueling procedures that offered flickers of hope, but no lasting relief. With every setback, she fought harder, documenting her struggle in Farrah's story, a raw and emotional look at her battle that would later earn her a posthumous Emmy nomination. As the months passed, her condition worsened. By April 2009, she was hospitalized again, suffering unbearable pain. Reports swirled about her deteriorating health, and by May, she was in and out of consciousness, spending her final days at home, uninformed, slipping away as loved ones gathered around her. Her longtime partner, Ryan O'Neal, stood by her side, holding her hand through the unbearable pain, while her father, now in his 90s, flew in for one last goodbye. Even as she faded, the tabloids continued their cruel speculation, claims of her being in a coma, wasting away, losing the will to live. But those who truly knew her saw a woman who never gave up, who clung to life with the same determination that had made her a star. On the morning of June 25, 2009, at the age of 62, Farrah Fawcett took her last breath at St. John's Health Center in Santa Monica. She was surrounded by love, yet her final moments were overshadowed by the news that just hours later, another icon, Michael Jackson, had died, pushing her passing into the background of the media frenzy. But Farrah's legacy was never about the headlines. She was more than just a pinup, more than just Jill Monroe. She was an actress who defied expectations, who took on challenging roles that showcased her depth, who fought not just for her career, but for her life. And in the end, she left behind more than just memories. She left behind a story of courage, resilience, and a fight that inspired millions. Shannen Doherty was a fighter, a woman who spent her life in the spotlight, bringing unforgettable characters to life, only to face a battle far more brutal than any script could ever write. Born on April 12, 1971, in Memphis, Tennessee, she was destined for the screen from an early age, making her mark as Jenny Wilder in Little House on the Prairie before truly skyrocketing to fame as Brenda Walsh on Beverly Hills 90,210. She became a household name, a star with an edge, known for her intensity both on and off the screen. But behind the scenes, her life took a tragic turn when in 2015, she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. What should have been caught earlier was delayed due to an insurance lapse, and by the time doctors found it, the disease had already spread. She fought hard, undergoing chemotherapy, radiation, and a mastectomy, pushing through the pain with the same fire she had in her career. In 2017, hope flickered when she went into remission. But in 2020, the cancer returned with a vengeance, this time as stage 4, spreading to her liver. In 2023, it invaded her brain, leading to grueling treatments, including radiation and surgery. And by the end of the year, it reached her bones. Through it all, she remained defiant, sharing her struggles openly, refusing to be defined by her illness, even as the pain grew unbearable. In her final days, she faced the harsh reality of her failing body, yet she never stopped fighting. She held on to her creative spirit, her love for life, and the people closest to her. On July 13, 2024, at just 53 years old, Shannen Doherty lost her battle with cancer, passing away at her home in Malibu, surrounded by loved ones. A woman who had once been the fierce and rebellious force of 90s television was now gone, leaving behind a legacy that would never be forgotten. From the screen to her personal battles, she was always a warrior, and even in death, her strength and resilience continue to inspire. Kirstie Alley, a beloved American actress, known for her iconic role as Rebecca Howe in Cheers and a career that spanned decades, tragically passed away on December 5, 2022, at the age of 71. Her death came as a shock to many, as it was revealed that she had been battling colon cancer, a diagnosis that had remained private until the end. In her final days, she was surrounded by family, including her 2 children, who later shared the heartbreaking news with the world. The aggressive nature of her illness meant that by the time it was discovered, treatment options were limited, and she spent her last days in a quiet fight against a disease that had already taken hold. For a woman who had lit up screens with her humor and charm, it was a devastatingly quick and cruel end. Kirstie had always been a fighter, facing personal battles with weight, the ups and downs of Hollywood, and the harsh criticism that comes with fame. But this was one fight she could not win. Her career was one of remarkable success, starting with her breakthrough in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and leading to Emmy-winning performances in Cheers and David's Mother. She became a household name, not just for her comedic timing and screen presence, but also for her candid and often controversial takes on life. Born in Wichita, Kansas in 1951, she had dreams bigger than the small town she grew up in and pursued them with relentless determination. But despite all the accolades, the laughter, and the adoration of millions, in the end, she was just a mother, a woman, a person fighting for more time. Cancer didn't care about fame or talent, but took her swiftly, leaving behind a world that mourned her loss. The outpouring of tributes from fans, co-stars, and friends spoke volumes about the impact she had, both on screen and off. Her journey from an ambitious young actress to a television icon was one filled with triumphs, struggles, and unforgettable moments. But her sudden death served as a stark reminder of life's fragility. She leaves behind a legacy of laughter, unforgettable performances, and the heartbreaking reality that even the brightest stars can be taken too soon. Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, left the world on August 16, 2018, at the age of 76, after a long and painful battle with pancreatic cancer. Her final days were spent at her home in Detroit, surrounded by family and close friends as she fought through the last stages of the disease that had slowly taken over her body. Her health had been deteriorating for years, but she kept much of her struggle private, performing for as long as she could before the illness forced her to step away from the stage. By the time the world realized how serious her condition was, she was already in hospice care, too weak to fight any longer. The news of her illness spread quickly, and as she lay in bed, frail and unable to eat, music legends, friends, and family gathered to say their final goodbyes. Stevie Wonder, Clive Davis, and Jesse Jackson were among those who visited, and prayers were said across the world as fans braced themselves for the inevitable. On the morning of August 16, her body finally gave in, and the world lost a voice that had defined generations. Aretha Franklin was more than just a singer. She was a force of nature, a woman whose voice carried the weight of an entire era. Born on March 25, 1942, in Memphis, Tennessee, she was raised in Detroit, where her father, C. L. Franklin, was a well-known minister. She started singing in church, her powerful voice standing out even as a child, and by the time she was a teenager, she was already on her way to becoming a star. She was signed to Columbia Records at just 18, but it wasn't until she joined Atlantic Records in 1966 that she truly found her sound. Her hits became anthems: Respect, You Make Me Feel Like, A Natural Woman, Chain of Fools, songs that weren't just about love and loss, but about power, struggle, and identity. She wasn't just a musician, she was a voice for the civil rights movement. a symbol of strength for women, a beacon of soul. Over her career, she won 18 Grammy Awards, sold over 75 million records, and became the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But behind the fame was a woman who had lived through deep pain. She became a mother at just 12 years old, endured abusive relationships, and carried the weight of personal losses, including the tragic shooting of her father in 1979. She had always been private, but in her final years, the weight of her battles became more visible. She had lost significant weight, canceled shows, and rumors about her health swirled. Yet, even in her weakest moments, she remained a legend, performing until her body simply couldn't keep up. When she passed, the world mourned not just the loss of a singer, but the loss of an icon, a woman whose voice had given hope, strength, and power to millions. Her funeral was a grand, days-long celebration of her life, with performances from some of the biggest names in music, a tribute fitting for a queen. And though she is gone, her voice will never fade. It will continue to echo through generations, reminding the world what true soul sounds like. Lynn Thigpen was a force of nature, a woman whose voice and presence commanded attention, whether she was guiding young minds as the chief in Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, enchanting children as Luna in Bear in the Big Blue House, or delivering gripping performances on stage and screen. But behind her vibrant career was a life cut tragically short, the sudden and devastating loss that shocked those who knew and loved her. On March 12, 2003, at just 54 years old, Lynn passed away from a cerebral hemorrhage, a silent and deadly condition that crept up without warning. In the days leading up to her death, she had complained of headaches, but no one could have imagined there were signs of something so serious. Then, in her Marina Del Rey home, without time to say goodbye, her life was taken in an instant. The world lost not just an actress, but a mentor, an inspiration, a woman who had dedicated herself to storytelling and lifting others up. Born in Joliet, Illinois, she was a natural performer from the start, pursuing theater with relentless passion after leaving behind a short stint as an English teacher. She made her mark early in Godspell and never looked back, lighting up Broadway, winning a Tony Award for An American Daughter, and bringing depth to every role she played, whether in Lean on Me, Shaft, or The District. But it was her television work that made her a household name, especially her unforgettable turn as the chief, guiding kids with wit and wisdom. Her death left a hole in the entertainment world that could never be filled, a legacy that lived on in the countless lives she touched. Her final film, Anger Management, released just a month after her passing, paid tribute to her memory, but the pain of her loss was raw. Those who worked with her spoke of her warmth, her generosity, her immense talent. The cast of The District was left reeling, the show forced to write her death into the story because there was simply no replacing her. In her hometown, an elementary school now bears her name, ensuring that even in death, her impact continues. She never married, never had children, but her influence stretched beyond bloodlines. Her voice, her presence, her artistry shaped a generation. And while the world moves on, her performances remain, a testament to a woman whose light burned brilliantly, until too soon it was extinguished. Patricia Neal was a woman of immense talent and resilience, an actress whose life was as dramatic as the roles she played on screen. She was born Patsy Louise Neal on January 20th, 1926, in Packard, Kentucky. And from an early age, she displayed a passion for the arts, a spark that led her to study drama at Northwestern University before heading to New York City to chase her dreams. She took Broadway by storm, winning a Tony Award for her performance in Another Part of the Forest, and soon Hollywood came calling. Her career was marked by unforgettable roles in films like The Day the Earth Stood Still, Breakfast at Tiffany's, and Hot, where she delivered a performance so raw and powerful that it earned her an Academy Award for Best Actress. But behind the bright lights of success, Patricia's life was filled with unimaginable heartbreak. She fell in love with actor Gary Cooper, an affair that left her shattered, and later married author Roald Dahl, a relationship that brought both love and pain. Their marriage was tested beyond measure when their infant son, Theo, suffered brain damage in a tragic accident, and their daughter Olivia died at just 7 years old from measles encephalitis. As if grief hadn't weighed on her enough, in 1965, while pregnant with her youngest child, Patricia suffered 3 massive strokes that nearly ended her life. She slipped into a coma for weeks, and doctors feared she would never speak or walk again, let alone act. But she fought with everything she had, undergoing grueling therapy, defying every expectation, and making a triumphant return to the screen, earning another Oscar nomination for The Subject Was Roses. Though she continued acting, the pain in her personal life never truly faded. Her marriage to Dahl ended in betrayal and divorce, and the shadows of loss followed her for the rest of her days. Patricia, a lifelong smoker, was diagnosed with lung cancer in her final years. Despite her illness, she kept going, appearing in public and supporting causes close to her heart. But on August 8, 2010, at the age of 84, Patricia Neal took her last breath at her home in Edgartown, Massachusetts. Just months before her death, she had converted to Catholicism, finding solace in her faith. She was laid to rest at the Abbey of Regina Laudis in Connecticut, a peaceful place far removed from the storms of her past. Her life was a testament to perseverance, a story of triumph over tragedy, of a woman who never stopped fighting, never stopped living, even when the world tried to break her. Today, she is remembered not just as a brilliant actress, but as a survivor, an icon of strength who turned pain into power, leaving behind a legacy that will never be forgotten. Susan Hayward was a Hollywood legend, a powerhouse actress who captivated audiences with her fiery performances and undeniable screen presence. Born Edith Mariner on June 30, 1917, she rose from a modest Brooklyn upbringing to become one of the most respected actresses of her time. But behind the glamour, her life was marked by struggles, heartbreak, and a tragic ending that many believe was caused by something far more sinister than fate. Susan was diagnosed with brain cancer in 1972, a devastating blow that slowly robbed her of her strength and ultimately took her life on March 14, 1975. Her final years were filled with pain and suffering, a stark contrast to the commanding presence she once had on screen. Her decline began with a seizure in April 1973, leading to a grim diagnosis of metastasized lung cancer that had spread to her brain. The once vibrant and fearless woman, who had battled through personal struggles and professional hurdles, now faced the ultimate fight, one she could not win. She withdrew from the public eye, her body growing weaker as the disease progressed. The world last saw her in 1974, when she made a heartbreaking appearance at the Academy Awards, frail and visibly ill, yet still carrying herself with the dignity that defined her career. But her death wasn't just a tragedy. It was part of a haunting mystery. Susan was one of nearly 100 cast and crew members from the 1956 film The Conqueror, who later developed cancer, sparking fears that exposure to radioactive fallout from nuclear testing in Utah had sealed their fates. John Wayne, Agnes Morad, and several others also fell victim to the disease, raising chilling questions about whether Hollywood's pursuit of spectacle had cost them their lives. But before tragedy struck, Susan Hayward was a force to be reckoned with. She fought her way to the top, earning 5 Academy Award nominations for roles that showcased her incredible range. From the tormented alcoholic in Smash Up, The Story of a Woman, to her Oscar-winning portrayal of convicted murderer Barbara Graham in I Want to Live. She was fearless, taking on roles that pushed boundaries and defied expectations, proving that women in Hollywood could be just as strong and complex as their male counterparts. Off-screen, her life was just as intense. Her first marriage ended in heartbreak and scandal, leading to a suicide attempt in 1955. But she found happiness again with her second husband, Eaton Chowdhury, a man who brought her peace and stability until his sudden death in 1966 shattered her world. In the years that followed, Susan drifted away from Hollywood, finding solace in her faith and personal life. But the shadows of her past never truly left her. When the cancer came, it was swift and cruel, stripping her of the strength that had defined her for decades. And on that fateful day in March 1975, Susan Hayward, The fiery redhead who had fought her way to the top took her last breath. She was only 57, but even in death, her legacy endured. Her films remain timeless, a testament to her talent, resilience, and the unforgettable mark she left on Hollywood. And though questions about the true cause of her death still linger, one thing is certain: Susan Hayward was a fighter until the very end. Their voices may be silent, but their impact echoes forever. Rest in peace to these incredible women. You will never be forgotten.